Broadleaf control in soybeans should be pretty easy, Darren. We have Roundup Ready and Liberty Link beans now.
That is nice, and you know, a majority of the beans planted across our country are Roundup Ready beans, and unfortunately, many of those broadleaf weeds are now becoming resistant to Roundup Ready treatments. So you're spraying just Roundup out there, it's not killing things. Yes, you could switch to Liberty, but you can only spray Liberty so many times across those fields too, or Ignite is the new version of Liberty.
Yeah, so don't get us wrong. I mean, we don't have any big problem with Roundup Ready beans or Liberty Link beans. They both have good fits in a lot of areas of the country, but the problem is they're not going to control every single weed out there at any stage of growth. So you're probably going to, in some cases, need a tank mix partner for one of those things. Let's spend quite a bit of time on the Roundup because that's where we have the most resistant weeds. And let's talk about the different products that we could use to go along with Roundup on Roundup Ready soybeans.
Well, first of all, of course, we want to have a good pre-down, but now you've already got the beans planted, they're already up, it's too late for that pre. Now we've got to focus on what else we can tank mix in. And you know, the biggest weakness in my mind of Roundup and of Ignite is that they don't have any residual. You're just killing what's out there today. A new weed could pop up tomorrow and you've got nothing out there to get it. So we've got to have some kind of residual activity in most of the tank mix partners we're talking about. Now, the real common ones to use have been the burners over the years, the Flex Star, the Cobra type products. They're great for that late season rescue of, wow, I've got that one or two species of weed.
Whoa. So I'm going to stop you right there. Not for late season, because with Flex Star and Cobra, we're talking about 2 to 4 inch tall weeds. And this is the biggest problem. A lot of guys have gotten used to spraying 2 to 4 foot tall weeds with Roundup, or to some degree even with Ignite.
The terminology has changed, yes.
Yeah, but I mean, now you're down to smaller weeds. So I'm going to disagree with you on this late season. What I would say is a lot of guys have talked about it late season and they say, oh, my Roundup didn't work, what can I use now? And some people will think, well, let's see, Flex Star is labeled, Cobra's labeled. No, they're really not labeled on weeds that they're that size.
Well, for the most part, you can spray them up to flowering. You don't want to spray them after flowering. Once you get flowers on the plants, then the rules change a little bit.
Okay, but specifically, why would you use Flex Star? What weeds are you going to be best at there?
Well, the biggest one has been the pigweed species. You know, once you get through
hemp, Palmer pigweed.
Yeah, once you get through using your first 2 shots of Ignite, if you've got another weed that pops up later, something like a Flex Star has been a great fill in to kind of catch that last one before the beans really start bushing out and filling in. You know, other than that, it's just good on a broad spectrum of weeds as a helper.
And you can mix Flex Star right in with Roundup. We would suggest in most cases just 12 ounces per acre. I know that in some areas it's labeled for more, but we worry a little about carryover. Also, you can't use Flex Star in every state. Now, you can use Cobra just about everywhere, but that really burns the beans down. It's good on similar weeds, like pigweeds.
It doesn't seem to hurt the yield. When you see the yield trials, even when you burn the leaves a bit with Cobra, it doesn't seem to hurt them. The weed control is worth it. And plus, you never know, you could help out with white mold or something like that too when you're spraying that Cobra. Now, earlier season, now the very first shot of Roundup that you're going out with, we typically aren't putting a Flex Star or Cobra in.
But I would. That's when I would do it.
We're normally using something different, like, for example, a Pursuit or Raptor. Now, back before Roundup Ready crops and Liberty Link crops, this was the marquee product in soybeans. It cost probably $20 an acre to the grower. Guys were spraying this and it did a great job, but we got some resistance to the ALS chemistry, which Pursuit and Raptor fall into. But let's not forget, you know, yeah, there's a few weeds that it misses, but Pursuit and Raptor are great helpers on a lot of things, like velvet leaf, sunflowers, cockleburrs, just a wide
morning
range
glory,
of weeds.
wild buckwheat, lamb's quarters.
Even a little bit of grass. You know, not a huge thing like it could do it all by itself, but if you just had some stragglers coming through, it does a pretty good job.
Now, one product you have to use when the weeds are small is Harmony SG or any of the generic versions of that, because you're after lamb's quarters, and even a 2-inch tall lamb's quarters is going to have a bunch of growing points on there, and we've got to kill every single growing point. Plus, with the Harmony SG, if the beans get real big, you might stunt them a little bit more than what we would like. Probably won't hurt yield, but I'd much rather just get that over with early in the season. Get after your lamb's quarters right away. Okay, then we get to Cadet and Resource. They are similar products. Cadet probably has a little bit more activity. I would say it's pretty decent on many of these weeds we've talked about already. Probably a little better than I thought it was 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh, I like the Resource personally. We've been using Resource for a number of years in velvet leaf country. Yeah. Resource is fantastic, and so is Cadet. They're both labeled up to about 3 foot tall velvet leaf plants. I mean, that's big velvet leaf. Now, all the other weeds that they're going to control are much smaller. So you don't want to wait till stuff gets that big. You're going to lose yield if you do. But just in case you have some velvet leaf issues in your area, even a low rate of resource and cadet do a nice job.
But they do have activity in other things like lamb's quarters, a little bit on wild buckwheat, stuff like that. The last thing we wanted to talk about just real quickly is Ignite. I can't stress this to you enough. Ignite does not kill 3-foot tall weeds very consistently. You need to be down in that 2 to 4 inch tall weed range again if you want the best results. I'd much rather go 2 shots of Ignite and get good control than wait until some of the weeds get big and then have average to poor control. Just spray early. Beans are worth a lot of money. You've got to protect them by having good weed control on your farm.
Well, all those broadleaf choices can help with certain weeds in your soybean crop, but they won't do anything for our weed of the week. We'll show you what will get it under control coming up next.